terrible things to countries and as we know, frequently when you have that kind of inequality and poverty, you have one of two ways to go. You go to after the people who cause the problems and create a more democratic society, or for many, many people it's more convenient to blame underdogs and minorities and black people and Jews and Muslims and every other group that is available. So that's where did I get to? Anyhow, that's where we are. We're at a point that can go desperately wrong. One of the very few bright lights is Bernie. Bernie's light will not do the trick unless he's elected. He will not be elected unless people like us really work very hard. Not only that we work for this campaign, but we know that his call for a social revolution, which is a call for a movement, is real. We will have to be, I think we should be committed and committing ourselves for the rest of our lives to working for peace and prosperity for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larry, and we're going to have you back up here in about 30 seconds. I want to ask if we can just move that, please. I'd like to introduce, for those of you who don't know her, Claudia Quiros, who is not only our social media coordinator, she's also the main co-partner in all the organizing that we do in France for Bernie. And she comes from Lyon to all of our meetings. She had a fantastic piece today in This is Lyon, which is very widely distributed, on why Bernie Sanders should be the next president of the United States. So, I'm going to hand this over to Claudia to conduct the interview with Larry before we get to announcements, and then after that, your questions. So, Larry, welcome back up here, and here you go, Claudia.
That was great.
Thank you so much.
Talk loud into the microphone.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Penny, for everything that you do. Your work is invaluable, not only to this group, but to the movement, and you should be recognized for that as well. And thank you, Larry, so much for coming all the way to Paris to see us tonight. I just have a few basic introductory questions before we open it up to the group. Well, here we are. It's 2020. Voting has begun, kind of. And poll after poll sees Bernie at the top. His campaign is showing record fundraising numbers every day. I imagine that 2016 was a whirlwind for you and for your family. What does it feel like this time around?
Well, the first thing is an incredibly slow whirlwind. It goes on and on and on. I suppose the big difference this time is there's such a really good chance that he'll win, that he can be elected. And the last time, it was exciting to see that he was shaking everything up and frightening the life out of people. and suddenly, from small meetings, turning up stadiums with 20,000 people. So this time, and of course in the middle of it he had a heart attack. So it has been a slow whirlwind. I don't know what else to say to that. It is for me. The whole thing is quite strange to be the brother of somebody of such significance. Sorry.
What?
Is that better?
Yeah. Talk right close to the microphone.
Yeah, wait, Larry, 1 second. Sully's going to increase the mic. 1 second.
Okay.
Well, next. Can you try it?
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, that sounds better. I forgot what I was going to say, of course. Yes, the business of being a brother to somebody, I mean, he's had a very significant career, but to somebody who's so significant to the world. And in fact, in the last few weeks, it's begun to occur to me that not only is he an amazing figure in American politics and a possible likely president, but that he actually could turn out to be one of the great figures of human history. And that's very hard to have a brother that you forgot to bring home from school and left him standing on a corner crying when he was 6 years old, and then you bawled out and beat up unnecessarily when he irritated you, and so on. So I'll have to ask his forgiveness.
Well, that kind of leads into my next question, which you know Bernie better than anyone else, really, and you've known him longer than anyone else. Growing up, even before his years of activism during university, was there any indication that this was the direction that his life was going to take him in?
Well, there's a very easy answer to that: no. It never occurred to me at all. Looking back, you can see some traits. He was a very, very nice kid, actually. Since we were 6 years apart, we moved in different friendship groups, and I didn't really know most of his friends. But one day, one of them came up to me and he said, "You know, your brother saved my life." An exaggeration, but he'd been being bullied. And Bernard was not a very strong guy or a big guy, but he was an athletic guy, so he could, he was formidable. And somebody had been bullying this kid, and Bernard stood up for him and told the guy to get lost, and things got better. So that's unusual. Other things are more long shot. He had a very odd thing of being very honest, which is not good for a politician, really. So what you would find out, he'd gone to school and the school teacher asked him some relatively innocent question, and he gives a long answer, which no family would want to have broadcast to the rest of the world. But it didn't occur to Bernard, if somebody answered a question, obviously you had to answer the question. So I did sit him down and explain to him, you don't do that. You don't necessarily have to lie, but keep it short. I suppose the other side of that coin is that he would come home with these stories. Have you heard about the aliens in New Jersey? Well, there probably are some aliens in New Jersey, but anything anybody told him, he was gullible, basically. And you say, no, look, that's nonsense. No, don't listen to that sort of stuff. And he said, but he's my friend. He wouldn't lie to me. So it was I think he's learned a bit since then. So those are a couple of things that might have given a clue, but it certainly didn't ring home to me.
You talked earlier about how you were the spokesperson. You are the spokesperson for health and social care for the Green Party. You're also a tireless champion for the NHS, the National Health Service of the UK. Bernie over in the US has led the fight for Medicare for all. Was there something in your upbringing that inspired this passion for the issue of health and healthcare?
Well, first of all, it's almost the other way around. You have to be very silly not to, any person, to be aware of how important healthcare is. But I think there were things. Our mother had rheumatic fever as a child, which damaged the valves of her heart, and I think we knew, without talking too much about it, that it was a threat there all the time. Our father was a heavy smoker, and I suppose what we both learned really powerful lessons. Now, as everybody here will know, and most of you will have had relatives who died through smoking, it was a massive cause of death, and it all happened, or not all happened, but millions and millions of people died long after the tobacco companies knew that their products were killing people. So there are loads of people in this world today who owe some of the most painful experiences of their life to people just doing their job and making a profit. So that was something I think we learned. And then of course, in the end, the heart problems they required an operation. The operation didn't go well, and a year or so after that, our mother died. So I don't know I think almost any person should be aware of the significance of these things, but we did have some very specific reasons for concern.
Both of you have also tirelessly fought for working people throughout your careers. And a few months ago, during a rally in Queens, Bernie asked the crowd a question that I think really beautifully encapsulates the idea of solidarity that is behind his movement, his campaign. He asked the crowd, are you willing to fight for someone you don't know as much as you're willing to fight for yourself? Was there something in your shared experiences or upbringing that have made you both tireless advocates for promoting solidarity and fighting injustices?
Well, I really don't know. I mean, I've said before, lack of money was an issue in the family. So we knew very well that it makes a difference. It's the kind of thing that gets your parents fighting because they're worried and all that. I want to say something slightly different on that. That message of his is really strikingly unusual. It's very unusual to have a politician who talks about class struggle. And Bernard has talked about class struggle. But most people who talk about class struggle don't talk about being kind to your neighbors. It's a different set of mind. And I think it's very particular and very important that Bernard has both of those concepts. The class struggle is very deep and important to his way of seeing the world. But the notion that within that world, that you need to look out for each other and that be concerned for people even when it makes no personal difference to you. To put those two things together, which are simple in one way, but rare, I think it does mark them out.
Definitely. I think we can all agree on that. So the question of Bernie's age and health has come up a lot throughout the conversation around his candidacy. As his older brother and as someone who knows him so well, can you speak to those concerns?
Well, he's recovered very well from the heart attack. He says he feels better after it than he has for quite a while. So that's very good. He's essentially one of the strongest people that I've ever met in my life. He's been a runner from childhood, first running away from our father. That's a question I'm not going to follow up on. But then he did it formally. He was a cross-country runner, and you know about cross-country runners. They row uphill and downhill, and it's always in the mud. And it's not speed, although he was quite speedy, but it's not really speed that makes a successful runner. It's actually determination. But you have to have the physical stuff to back up the determination. And I think I'm feeling pretty confident that he can do the job. His main opponents are pretty much as old as he is, and they don't have any of the sports background of it, because in addition to the running, he was a very good basketball player, and a constant athlete through most of his life. The last 10 or 15 years he's fallen off in that, being too busy or something. So I think the comparisons hold up. He's as strong and as fit and as determined as anybody around.
And then we only have one final question for you. You've lived here for decades. You've lived here for decades abroad. Outside of the U.S. and you were involved in Democrats Abroad. We saw the video of you at the convention. Why is it important to vote in the global presidential primary, and how does this help Bernie?
Well, I think probably everybody who's come here knows, but I'll tell you again, because that's one of the things that Bernard has taught me. You have to say everything 100 times before it sinks in. In fact, he quite distrusts me. He says, every time you talk, you say something different. And I said, that's more interesting. He made a face that meant that he didn't think very much of that answer. So we do, the Democrats Abroad it runs a primary. We have delegates to the convention, as I was lucky enough to be the last time, just like a small state. In fact, I think Vermont had 14 delegates, and Democrats Abroad had 13 delegates. And the extra kicker that makes it a good idea to vote in the global primary is that you're more of an impact. So for instance, Vermont, I think, had over 200,000 votes for their 14 delegates. And I think we had 35,000 for one delegate less. So you can see there's a huge difference. And if we can add a few thousand votes to Bernard's total in the global primary, that'll be a couple of delegates. And I really don't know, but it is not impossible that this convention is going to be different from the ones for the last 30 or 40 years. Things are so close, there's so much chicanery around. It could go to the floor. If it goes to the floor, every delegate is going to be very important. And I would hope there is many Democratic Broad delegates for Bernard in that crowd at a crucial moment.
Thank you so much.
Okay. We're going to get to your questions and discussions in just a few moments, but following up on the global presidential primary, we have people here today from Democrats Abroad. Where are you? Registering folks, signing people up, all the way at the back. So, again, the single most important thing you can do to help Bernie get the nomination is to vote in the global presidential primary and not in your home state. People are here who can explain a lot more about this afterwards. We're not taking questions on that right now. You have a flyer on it. We're happy to talk to people about it. But your vote counts a lot more. So, it's not only your vote. I know a number of you have been to our meetings already, have come up and started your lists. And that list contains every single American who's eligible to vote in this global primary, including students who support Bernie, is on your list, as well as their voting age children, if that applies. And you've already made that commitment to contact every single one of them, not only to join Democrats Abroad so they can vote in this, and their same-day registration, by the way, it's March 3rd to March 10th. Ballots will start going out on February 18th. You can also vote remotely as well as in various polling places. But for those of you who have not yet started your list, we hope you'll start that list tonight and actually follow through on that. Now, getting to other things that you can do. So join Democrats Abroad today before you leave. And also, at the same time, you can register to vote, request your ballot for other races. A lot of people get very confused about this and think, oh, I signed up with Democrats Abroad, so I'm registered and I can get my ballot. No. Or, oh, I registered and requested a ballot, so I'm signed up with Democrats Abroad. No, you need to do both, but first, sign up to vote in the global primary. What I'd like to do now is just spend a few moments before we get to questions and discussion on other things that you can do to concretely help ensure that France for Bernie has reached every single person we possibly can to ensure as many votes as we can. And I need our microphone runner up here. Ethan, are you here? Can you get up front? And if not,
I can help.
then I need another microphone runner.
Who's first, Benny?
Okay. First person is Tristan, but I need someone to get this mic to him.
I think it's on a course.
No.
Oh, you have another one? Great. The best one.
So, Tristan is in charge of our outreach, and he's going to tell you about what you could do to help us with our outreach.
Okay, hi everybody, I'm Tristan.
It should speak into the top of
It
it.
doesn't work.
Turn it on. Turn it on.
Oh, here it is. Okay, hi,
Speak into the top.
yeah.
No.
There we go. I'm Tristan, I'm with the outreach group. We've been canvassing several places where we can find Americans around Paris. So we've been met with great enthusiasm when we went out. And we've got actually a couple events that are scheduled in the next few days. And we're trying to reach students in a couple of places we haven't been to yet. So if you're interested in making an effort to our campaign and really doing something that matters, please come and talk to me afterwards. I've got that very distinctive Bernie button that singles me out in the crowd. So yeah,
Wait, just wait.
thank you very much.